Here's my process for making a soft shackle. I first started using D-rings or D-splicers when I first started working with this stuff, and these are great tools, but they have a lifespan. They end up breaking at that stress point. Then I moved to a FID, and this is a very useful tool. Pointy end, holy end. I'll show you how to use that as I'm working with this at one particular point. These are 6mm or 1/4 inch FIDs. Well, this one is. I don't know why they put the notches over there. I filed those, kind of beveled the edges, and I also smoothed out the back end too because it was kind of jagged and it'd catch on line, and as you pass this through, it still tends to hang up inside the line, but with the beveled edges it doesn't hang on quite as much. Then there is the EZ-Splicer. This is the best tool for what I need. It used to have a little loop here for something like this. The first one I dropped, it fell on that and it broke off, so I drilled into these and I used these as D-splicers, and I added this hole here, so I actually have a good leverage addition by putting a soft shackle through it. And here's another use for a soft shackle. So to make one about this size, I take a 33-inch piece of 7/64 am steel, and I go by fingers. I leave about a finger there. That is a little over 1/2 inch, 5/8 of an inch. Now, I need about the same length marked at the, away from the bend at the middle, well, almost the middle, on the long strand. So the reason we start with the long strand, make it longer, is because the short strand going inside it is going to chew up this length. So from here, I'm not even sure what length this is. Let's see, 2.5 inches. So 2.5 inches for the berry splice. On the long strand, just enter, push it on through, and want to come out in the same line. Don't want to exit 90 degrees away from where you entered. Put the end through, lock it in the end of the splicer, give it a direction, and now wiggle it through your berry splice. Now careful not to pull completely through. Don't pull it inside out. Just let it stop where your first fold was. Milk it down. Now that will be the perfect opening for sticking a button knot through, and paired with this berry splice, it's going to give just enough opening for easily putting the button knot through. But because this berry splice is no longer, when you pull it closed, it's going to ensure this splice closes on itself. It'll slide closed. Now this is where I like the FID, and we'll go into the inside strand. We'll enter in line with this other piece of line. Want to keep everything aligned as we do this. Now 1, 2, 3, 4 strands on this side, 4 on the other side. We've split the 8-strand am steel in half and put the end of the line in there and pass it through. And now this will lock. It's just enough to lock the berry splice in place. So now you can open it, and that's not going any further. Now that we've done that, it's time for the button knot. And the way I do it by eye, just rough estimate, I know I need about a palm's length. So on 7/64 am steel, that ends up being 2, 4, 6, 8 inches, to tie the button knot. You may want to leave some more if you're doing this for the first time. Just give yourself longer tails to work with, because you'll see it gets quite clusterfucky. Now, you want your ends to be about the same length, and this turned out pretty well. Well, maybe 1/8 of an inch size difference between the ends. That got absorbed from the 5/8, got absorbed into the berry splice, but that's okay. Now, I go down, let's leave some extra on this one. This knot orbits around itself, and we're going out and in along all like the X, Y, and Z axes. So I'll start with my right hand strand. People typically tape these if you have electrical tape or painter's tape or something. Tape the base of the knot, where the base feeds go into the knot. Now I'll start giving names to things. So you're pinching your base feeds. You want to make sure, as you're doing this on your spliced line, that the lengths are the same. You want to load the shackle evenly, so you have to have both strands at the same tension when it's under load. Now, I'll take my right hand strand, loop it over to the left, and pinch it with my thumb. Take my left hand strand, pass it towards myself over the right hand strand, and bring it back through. So one faces away, one faces me, and this looks kind of like ovaries or an infinity sign. And we'll pull it just snug so it stays closed and it doesn't tend to do something like that where they walk away from each other. Now we're doing the crown. So that was the walnut. This is the, whoops, this is the crown. It's basically an overhand knot, and this will remain a reference throughout the rest of the knot tying process. So once again, we're going clockwise. The red strand that faced away now faces me, blue strand now faces away. And if you've started tying clockwise, continue tying clockwise the whole way through. Otherwise, it's you're shifting direction halfway through and it ends up a mess. So now I need some room to push these through. So push the tail through, continuing clockwise. Do the same thing on the other side. And now, since I have this one already, I'll go beneath and up and through that walnut, and do the same thing here, beneath and up and through. But now I also want to go inside this other one, so the tail ends up on top. Do the same thing over here, tail ends up on top. And now you've passed the tails through 2 layers on both sides. And now we'll start snugging everything up. So pull your base feeds to tighten the walnuts. Give it a good pinch. Make sure that crown stays on top. By the way, we've gone around the crown. And now, another place the fid comes in very handy is go split the crown and go down the center of the knot. So I have a blue strand on this side and a red strand on this other side. Don't want to go to the side, want to go right between them, right down the base feeds. Next, we'll start tightening. Well, since you have long tails, let's pass the tails down. Pass through the knot. I can put an angle on it and that'll help me pull. Stick it right next to the strand I just pushed through and push it down the same direction again between the red strand and the blue strand, but now we have this tail sticking down inside there. Now we'll get the second tail down the same hole. Now comes the tightening part. So once again, snug up the base feeds and the walnuts and then the crown. So we're basically working our way through the knot from the first step to the last, just as we did in the tying sequence. Now I don't want to pull that all the way down because I want to be able to give it a good tug later. Follow that. And I can give this a wiggle and figure out which side to pull on, because the tails the tails go vertically into the knot, but the things preceding these go around, and that's how I know what to pull on to see where I need to pull to get everything snug. Now you see this one's shorter than this one, so give those base feeds another pull, tightening everything evenly. And now I know the center is the tail, so pull that. The center is the tail, pull the side. And this is where you want to really pull everything really tight. Want to make it rock hard. And then you pull your tails in. And tighten those base feeds some more. And now we have a nice button knot. And check the sizing. Yeah, there's no way that's going through without opening it up. Now, I'll do this one like I normally do, shorter tails. So, right hand strand faces me, left hand strand goes over it, behind it, and back towards me. Pull them snug. The one that faces away from me now comes to me, and this one goes around it and through. Pull my crown tight, push those wall knots from the base feeds up so I can start passing tails through. Now, something I didn't mention before, you don't want your base feeds to cross as they go into the knot. This will make, it'll add confusion later on. So, making sure they stay on their respective sides, push a tail through, tail through, tail beneath and through the previous tail and the base feed wall knot. Same thing on the other side. There's the crown. This is the base feed. I want to go through all this up to here, and this other one I also want to go up here. So they exit opposite each other and they've orbited completely around. Tighten those base feeds. Pull on the base feeds, tighten in the wall knots. Now, I didn't want to pull very tight because I want to be able to push the fid through. There's not much to work with here, so I'll go ahead and tighten the crown as much as I can right now. Let's see, that crown goes there. This one is here. Now pull the tails, stuff them in. Go back into the same hole, and I'll try and exit on this other side. Perfect. And pass this tail through. All right, now start tightening everything. That was the first step. Second step, I don't really have much to pull on at this point because I don't have long tails. And here's where the fid can give more leverage. Pull the other side. And then pull the tails completely down and tight. Now, to bury the tails, if I were to just stuff each tail inside a base feed strand, it would go from 2 thicknesses down to 1, and that creates a stress point. So when the soft shackle approaches breaking load limit, that's where it's going to break. So we have to taper the ends, make them ramp off, and the easiest way I've found to do that is stuff the fid right down the center, pull the strands apart, undo the braids, go about 1 inch. Same on the other one. And then with a very sharp knife or a really good pair of scissors, these are Kevlar cutting shears, I guess. Got them on Amazon. Jonard tools. Yeah, handy little buggers. I'll take 2 strands and 2 strands and cut all 4 at the same time. Yeah. Pull them a little more. Okay, so that's 2 strands out of the 8 gone. I'll go up maybe 1/4 inch. I'm not measuring, I just eyeball it. And get 2 more strands off of each tail. Go up another 1/4 inch, get 2 more. Now this is becoming harder to grab both tails at the same time, so I'm just going to do 1 at a time. And then I like to cut the last one shortest, leaving one its full length. So there's a taper all the way down to 1 strand. All right. Now, that's a decent taper. That's a decent taper. And some of this length is going to go to the thickness of the added tail when I splice these in. So I'll go down a little ways, give myself a little mark to enter and make it easier because the braids are separated. Push the splicer in. Now you notice it's wanting to come out. Push it back and try again. Get a good handle. Splay the tail and the base feet apart so you can go as far up into the knot as you can. Stick the tail through. Bury it. Now, push that up onto the spliced in strand, much as it'll go. Now notice, this is where the line was, and it's almost a 1/2 inch further up from where it started. So if you don't go far enough away from the tail you're burying, you'll end up with exposed tail that you'll either have to bury again or cut shorter. And you want both tails the same length. If these ended up the same length, but if they're not, then cut them to the same length and then taper them, because otherwise you'll end up with uneven base feeds going up from the splices to the button knot. Make sure all the strands are facing the same direction, and there's a soft shackle. If they're not quite the same length from one side to the other, give the short one a little tug, and there you have it. Self-closing soft shackle. You may end up with a little dye on your fingers, but that's just how it goes. Thanks for watching.